Hello everyone watching the video. TC Films back with you on an edit here in Luminar Neo. This image I took with my old DSLR Canon 6D Mark II. Took it at Letchworth State Park, and that's in New York. And it was taken June the 1st of last year at 11:25 in the morning with a harsh light. As you can see, the sky's pretty much blown out. And if you look at the histogram up here, you can see all the way to the right here is your highlights, and there's the midtones, and then there's the shadows. None of the shadows look okay. The midtones need to bring up some, and the highlights need to come down some. So we're going to work on this, hopefully not too long. The camera settings, I had my EF 70 to 200 f4L lens on, and I was zoomed. Well, actually, I wasn't zoomed in. I was at 70 millimeters. F10 1/80th was my shutter speed, and the ISO was 50. So I took this back when I was not very well educated as far as composition technique, and I just knew that the bridge looked nice from where I was standing, and the mist in the background here, you can see, I thought that looked cool. And then of course the main waterfall here. There's 3 falls here at this Letchworth Park here. I posted a video, I think, of this same area before, if I'm not mistaken. And there's this is mid falls, the mid waterfall here, and this one's the upper falls, and then there's another one lower back behind where I was standing. Me and my wife were here, and we was on a nice high lookout point. So like I mentioned, I took this back when I didn't know much about composition, and so during this past cold spell we had here, where I wasn't getting it out much, I wasn't getting out at all with my camera, I'd often go back and look at my old photographs. And this one, came across this one, and decided to give it another critique. And some a course I took, Matt Kloskowski, Inside the Composition course, which is a really great course. If you guys are interested, I think he's still got it. You sign up for it on his website. And anyway, in that course, I learned a few things about what to look for when you come to a spot and you got your camera and you want to know, well, what am I doing here? Which is one of the questions you ask yourself. Why am I standing where I'm at? Of course, I was standing in this spot because it was up high and it gave me a broad, wide view of the cool bridge here and the main waterfall there. And then when I got this, as looking this photograph over again, I noticed this house right here that I didn't even know back when I took the photo. I hadn't even noticed that house right there. So that is another interesting thing that I discovered upon revisiting this photograph. Another thing that I was taught in Matt Kay's course was he calls it the 1/3, 2/3 rule, whereas you have 1/3 of your image in sky and 2/3 of it as foreground. Well, if you divide this image up into foreground, there's not much foreground right here, but it's pretty much 1/3 sky, 1/3 background, 1/3 foreground. I consider this sky to be uninteresting. I'm going to try to bring back some detail here in the clouds, make it a little more contrasty, a little more dramatic. And then he also mentioned in his course looking for diagonals and triangles in your photo when you go to do a composition. And in this photo, I can see a triangle here. Now, as I mentioned, this is back when I didn't know anything about, how I should be composing a shot. I just walked up to it. Ooh, that's pretty, and snapped the photo. And here's a triangle here. And there's another type of a triangle here. And I don't know if you can consider, well, I guess you might consider this diagonal line and this down here forming a tip of a triangle here. So if you have those kind of intersecting angles and lines and shapes in your photo, it's all good. And then another thing he mentioned was, and I would have to open up the crop tool to see what it will look like if you use the rule of thirds. You have 1/3 coming down here and another one here, and you have your third lines going down, and he mentioned placing your main focal point on the right third of the image. I guess that's how our eyes naturally go, to the right part or where the light is. But in this image, I guess I could crop to where the bridge, but actually the bridge isn't the main focal point. It's part of the main focal point here. And then I think the house over here is also a focal point. So he also mentioned using a foreground. Well, he says that foreground grounds the viewer's eye. And back when I took this photo, I remember thinking, oh, that looks, these out of focus little shrub here, or grass or weeds, whatever these are, in the foreground look kind of neat. And I guess that does establish a little grounding view of where I was standing. Looking at this, you can tell, well, the guy was up high somewhere. And then the framing, the overall framing of your photo, of your composition, which in this instance, again, was the main waterfall there. If you want to keep it in the center, do you want to frame it? There's different ways you can frame it. But it's very subjective. And another little thing I noticed is this little bird way up here, which I'm going to probably erase. So we're going to get started editing this photo right now. And I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I'm having to redo my editing workflow, and it's probably going to be excluding Luminar Neo. At first, I thought Luminar Neo was going to be my main editing tool, software editing for my photos. But then I took Matt Kay's course, and also I took a Blake Rudis Zone System Express course that he has, and it's completely changed how I'm looking at my editing and how I'm composing and how I'm using color and color grading. And beforehand I wasn't doing a whole lot of color grading at all in the photos. I would just bam. Sometimes you're just that one quick button in Lightroom, the auto button, and then I would be, okay, that looks good, I'm done. Well, now I'm changing. I want to up my game, as they say, overused term. So we're going to get started with this edit here. Usually when I start off editing a photo in any program, either be it Lightroom, Luminar Neo, or whatever, I'll go to the crop tool, and Luminar Neo, I mean, they've got all kinds of presets, and sometimes I'll go there and I'll see what they offer. And I already went through these, and it didn't really do a whole lot. That, like over here, their AI is suggesting here's some waterscape collection. And then if I hover over that, you can see what it changes the image to, which I don't like. And then another one new update with Luminar Neo, they've actually allowed you to view your image as if you did apply the preset just by hovering over it with your mouse. And I didn't like that one. And silver flash, I guess that's supposed to be some kind of look that where you use I don't know what the technique is, but I'll think of it here directly. But I didn't really like that. Cold currents, I don't know what for cold temperature. Dark and rich, soft fix, and then deep focus. And I wasn't going to try any of them. I'm just going to. There's more you can try too, but I just decided to edit it myself. And I usually start with the crop tool. Now, Luminar Neo has an AI crop tool where you can just click on this composition button here. And that's what Luminar Neo is suggesting. They're suggesting that for the crop, which I don't know why. I guess it would be okay, but I'm not going to crop the image. I don't think it really needs it. I like this big clump of greenery here that helps form the triangle. So we're not going to do any cropping. The first thing also I do is I go to my raw develop. And there's some profiles here. This is the Luminar default, and sometimes I'll go with my camera landscape, which is right here, for a profile, and let Luminar see what it wants to do with that. Which it added some contrast. There's the before and after. Before and after. We'll leave it on the camera landscape. I kind of like that. So once I set the crop, and then I'll go to the profile here and set that, I'll start doing my tone adjustments. And these are all globally. The tone is going to affect every pixel in the image. Exposure, darker. I think I got it pretty much good on the exposure. I don't think that needs anything. And super contrast does a pretty good job of adding a bit more contrast, and I think I like that at about 16 or 15, right around in there or so. Looks good. And the highlights, I know I'm going to come down with those, get some of that sky back, some of the detail back. As you can see, it starts coming back in the sky there. I'm thinking around there looks pretty good. My shadows, maybe open them up a little. And that's looking okay so far. Here's the before, and there's the after. Before and after. All right, that's looking pretty good, and that bird is starting to bother me a little bit, so I'm going to be getting rid of that in a minute. My blacks and whites, I think they're okay. I don't think it needs any more black. I don't think they need to be lifted any. Whites, they look okay. I'm not going to do any curve. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. I think that looks okay. The temperature as shot, sometimes I'll go and check my, see what the software says, and this is what they're saying daylight looks like. I kind of like how that affected the photo there. And I don't know, it wasn't too cloudy, but that kind of brings it back to actually how it was shot a little. I'm thinking daylight. Either going to be daylight or as shot, or sometimes I'll get the little color picker here and try to find a neutral gray area. And I also was told that if you look for those RGB numbers at the bottom of this little target display down here where your eyedropper tool is. And if you see those three numbers where they're getting pretty close to being the same, that's a good area to use. Sometimes if it's too white, I know Lightroom's color picker won't do nothing to the image if it's too light, too white. So see what that does. They're pretty close to the same there. Well, I actually like that. I think it did what the daylight did when I had it on daylight. So we're going to leave it right there. The tint, saturation, and vibrance, sometimes I'll use them, sometimes I won't. And I think maybe we're going to leave those as is. Sharpness, noise reduction, optics, I don't really see very much noise in the image. I could zoom in to 1,000 or something, but I'm not going to. So I'm thinking that looks pretty good with the tone adjustments I made. There's the before and there's the after. Before and after. That looks okay. And next I will usually go to my color harmony up here, and I'll do some color balance. I've been playing with the brilliance and warmth. I've been kind of playing with those, but for this image I'm not going to do anything except go with my color balance and start with my shadows. And I wrote down a few numbers earlier to kind of give me a starting point to see what they do. Shadows, I kind of maybe go with yellow, blue, and we're going to increase those to about maybe 5 or 6. And we'll go to the midtones next. And we're going to try the cyan and red at about a +10, which may be a bit much. And then the magenta green, back that off to a -7 or so. And after I do all these, I don't make no adjustment on the yellow, blues, and the midtones. After I make the final adjustment in the highlights, I will turn on and off, and we'll see what it looks like. The cyan and red, we'll go with a positive number on that. And then the magenta green, we'll go with a negative number there, and a negative number on the yellow blue. And we'll turn it on and off and see what the before color harmony and after color harmony. Before color harmony and after color harmony. And I'm actually liking that as it is. I am going to use the erase and get rid of that dot right there. I'm going to use the left bracket key and bring that down. And gone. Okay, so that's all the erasing actually that I need to do. Pretty much, I mean, you could spend so much time on your images. I mean, I could do probably a whole lot more. But I don't want to bore you guys with too much more of my boring edits on this image. I'm thinking, I don't know, these creative tools down here, these AI creative tools, the relight, the brightness near. Sometimes I'll play with this. Let's see what the brightness near does. Brighten up the foreground some. And the brightness far. What does that do? That really, okay, I see what that's doing. The depth. I think the image has good depth. You see some depth down in here, and then back here in the background, and then this bridge going across there, and then behind there adds some depth also. So the relight AI, I don't know, has that helped? There's with it off, and there's with it on. I did okay, and I think I like that. That's all right. We'll leave it like that. Sky AI, I'm not going to replace the sky. Here is an enhance tool, and here's the sky enhancer. Usually the enhance accent AI save for last, and the sky enhancer, let's see what that does. Does that add a little bit more drama? Yeah, it does. But you don't want to go too much, of course. How about that? Before, after, and before, after. And I could go through and do some masking and, you know, just like I mentioned, spend so much time tweaking and you know, going overboard, adding, like, you know, I would probably maybe lighten up. I think the color of these cliffs down here is nice. I would maybe lighten that up, bring out the house a little bit here, maybe lighten that area up a little. And the bridge, maybe lighten some of that. But I'm not going to do all that. That is available in Luminar Neo. Masking, they have great masking tools here. Well, let me see. So I'm thinking that enhance. Let's do before I get to the accent AI up here. Structure AI. And they have another. I think it's in the details. Yeah, the small detail here for it's just sharpening, and I really like this tool because if you see these small little lines down in here, how they, and even down in here, watch how that just, there's off and there's on. It just tweaks those little lines and just makes them pop just a little bit. Let me just go a tiny bit more. And then the medium, we'll bump those, the medium details up. Large. I don't know if I would go down and do something to that waterfall or not. But I like the small, medium, and large detail adjustments here with this tool. There's the before, and there's the after. Before and after. Before and after. Look in here. Look back here at this bridge. You can see it really helped out, bring out that. There's the before and after. I like it. I like it a lot. There's not much color, you know, other than this, I don't know what color you'd call this, but these cliffs kind of match that bridge there. That color in the, I don't know, it's magenta or rust brown or something. It's not magenta, it's probably more rust color. But I'm liking that, folks. Let's see what the overall full change is here. There's where it was when we started, the very beginning, and there it is now. There's where we started. There it is now. I like it. I'm not going to go down and do any masking in anything here. I think it's a good image like that. If anything else, I will Oh, they have a little landscape enhancement tool here. I don't really. It wasn't the golden hour. There's no foliage. It's not fall. I don't think the dehaze. I don't. That just brings in so much more contrast that I don't think it really does anything for the image. There's the dehaze that added blue to the sky or something. I don't really like that. We'll just leave it like that. And I don't need to denoise it. There's actually a noiseless AI thing here. Super sharp AI. Now, I've already sharpened the image a little bit. We could do a low super sharp just for the heck of it and see what that does. I can always reset it if I don't like it. Let's go ahead and do that. And this little graphic that comes up when you do this, I think it's just for show. I think I was watching a video. Somebody else was doing this with one of their images in Luminar Neo, and they said that don't really do nothing. Those little lines going across there is just for our entertainment. But there was low sharpening, and we're going to turn it off. And on, off, and on. And I think that done a pretty good job. We're just going to leave it at that. And I will, for a finishing touch, before I add a little vignette, let's do the enhance. I like to go to Accent AI. And we'll go far, and then I usually drop it way back. But that's a great tool to use, this little Accent AI. That's a bit much. How about that? Before, after, before, and after. Is the clouds looking odd? I'm no. This image is not it's not going to be in a contest. This image won't win any contest. Maybe I'll put it like that. But it was fun to go back and I'm going to back this off a little bit. It was fun to actually go back and look. About 20. See what that does. Look at some of my old photos, and after I've taken the Inside the Composition course by Matt Kozlowski, and then Blake Rudis's Zone System Express Photoshop. It's a panel that he made for Photoshop to work on tone and effects in your images, or tone, color, and effects. There's 3 key words there that he specifically uses when he made that, and his panel in Photoshop is really nice. But I'm just using Luminar Neo on this image, and we'll see the enhancement there. Is it without it? And there it is, on, off, and on. Actually, I think it's pretty much done. Let me put a little vignette on here, and there's many different ways you can do a vignette. You can mask something and then just draw out you can use a radial mask and draw it out, but in this instance I'm just gonna, I don't know, the subject. You can move the subject around, but we'll call the subject right in, this area here. Choose our amount. Well, let's go to the advanced settings. Sometimes I'll like to, just make everything just so you can really see what the mask is doing. Roundness, feathering. Yeah, I like it to be feathered. Inner light. Let's back off the amount and see what we got. Which isn't too bad, right about there. Maybe a little more inner light inside that. And I think that looks nice. I'd also been considering selling some prints now, and I realize I've got to get a little bit better at landscape photography, but a thought just came to mind. If I would pay I'd pay $20 for that, wouldn't y'all? 15, $20 for it. I was told once by a photographer who had a little booth set up at, I don't know where we were at, but I noticed these power lines in here, but that's okay. They're not that distracting to me. Now, if I was selling the print, yes, I would take time and get those, just probably clone them out. But anyway, to get back to what I was saying, we were somewhere, and this photographer, he had a booth set up with some of his prints, and he told me, he said, you know what, if someone sees your photograph and they want it, and it could be some photograph next to it that would be twice as beautiful, but if they see yours and there's something about it that sticks with them over anything they've seen, any other photograph they've seen, they're going to buy it. So, I try to keep that in mind as I'm looking around and seeing what other photographers are doing. I would buy some of Matt Kay's and some of Blake Rudis's and other photographers. I would buy some of their prints. I would also buy, I have several of mine that I've got framed and put up, and they're nice. But are they epic? I mean, to get epic photos, you have to go to epic places. Is this epic? I guess kinda is. But I plan on doing a little bit more traveling and finishing up Blake Rudis's course. I finished my Inside the Composition course. I'll leave links to them, both of their websites, Matt Kloskowski and Blake Rudis, and you all can go check their stuff out. But we're going to call this photo done. One more time, we'll go down here to the complete before, pretty drab, to now. Before, and voila, the masterpiece. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell because more good stuff to come. All righty. Take care, everyone. Peace.